We'll reconvene the meeting, please, at 1:19, which is very good, councillors. 40 minutes. 50 minutes. Information report. Can I have somebody please move that we received 361? Councillor Gleeson, seconded Councillor Hanson. Those in favour? Carried. Damien, anything to lead us through here?
Mr Mayor, I was just going to mention about I've been still in phone conversations with Next ATM. So I'm just waiting on the salesperson that I've been dealing with. He was having a meeting with the CEO recently, so I'm just waiting on a decision back there to with getting the Alpha one up and running and trying to work on then the community one in Jericho at a later stage.
Okay. Questions?
Mr Mayor, I have a question for Damien. The end of the local boy presentation on the 2nd of Feb, what's that about, Damien?
That one there was a presentation from one of the ladies from Local Boy, and it was just basically with some upcoming training that they were wanting to host as well in Longridge.
Training with relation to?
A few courses with Local Boy, with procurement, all that, and what's the other ones there?
Mr Mayor, the Local Boy's having I think it's a day and a half or 2 half days in Longridge, organising their procurement training and update on Local Boy.
Is it procurement training for our staff, or is it procurement training to support Local Boy in Brisbane?
Training for our staff to support Local Boy in Brisbane.
Right, because Local Boy really has nothing to do with buying local, as we've discussed plenty of times in the
It's a
past.
finance scheme for LGAQ. I would think it's a method of last resort for procurement for us. Or as we used before, when there's no local available and we need a tender exemption for a big contract like that. But in terms of procurement, Local Buy doesn't really.
I think it's broad, that will be a component of it, but it's broad about procurement, what the procurement rules are in terms of local government. It's just an updating session on procurement plus Local Buy.
Okay.
Further questions? Damien, would you like to let us through here, please?
Mr Mayor, this is in just relation to the tender. Just put a recommendation in there to with accepting 35,000 for 3 Dryden Street, and it also comes with the. I'll put in there as a recommendation just as well. There will be a new ratepayers that will be in there as well. So it will actually be a young couple going in there into the living there for the local community. Also, just going on some of the prices there, it seems to be a relevant sort of price at the moment with a few of the houses around. There was one just sold the other day for around 40, 45 a house in the flood area. So,
Yeah, well, 33, 35 is pretty similar. We've had 2 office councillors. The officer's recommendation is we accept the highest conforming tender. All tenders were conforming, so the highest tender is the problem. Councillor Hanson moves, seconded. Councillor Plum, those in favour? 6-0. Councillor Gleeson's right to return. You want someone to move the Paula's report? Oh, better wait. Can I have somebody please move Paul's report? Councillor Nichols, seconded Councillor Arthur. Can I see your hand? Dan?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Those in favour? Carried 7-0. Paul, something to lead us through? Anything to lead us through?
We received a good amount of applications for the rural lands officer position, so we'll move forward with that in the next week or two and interview. We've installed all the crosses in the cemetery now, which is a pretty good feat, and we'll move towards installing our new lawn cemetery section as well. So we've got a place marked out for that, so we just need to do the cement where the headstones are going to sit. And Brett's going to pick up the SES vehicle on Tuesday morning in Rockhampton.
He's going to drive it to Grace and see if it's too rough, and then he'll catch the bus home and someone will go down and pick it up. No, he'll go pick it up, do the ceremony for the handover at the very least.
Well, it's in dispute at the moment, so I need your help, Mr Mayor, to
Smooth it over.
organise it.
Right.
But yes, I'll be driving the vehicle back on Tuesday.
Paul, I just have two issues. One, Stuart Bowden from Penland Downs was concerned about the spread of thorn apple on the stock route. He realises we have no RLA, but he wanted to flag it for council's
Spread of what, sorry, Mr Mayor?
thorn apple. I must admit it's not a weed that I'm familiar with, but if you're involved in the sheep industry, you know a lot about it, especially in his area where it's been under control for a long period of time. And it just, he believes this weather event has sort of seen a bit of an explosion of it along the route. Quite a few producers in his area are trying to deal with it, but apparently there's an issue. So I'm just raising that after conversations yesterday. And also, there was one particular individual who raised it with me, but the CEO is also aware of this, the issue with access from private dwellings to the street in Swords, one that the men's sheds in, Swords Street. Edkins, the other way, sorry, in Edkins Street. So, not something we need a discussion on today, but just perhaps in advance of our next budget meeting, whether we can look at what is required to just get them concrete access from their front gate to the bitumen. So, not a lateral footpath, one just to go straight on, I think is what they believe would be suitable for their needs. Now, I don't know whether that's concurrent with what council's plan is, but if we can just look at what might be required and the number of them that we might be required to do, because it's providing substantial accessibility issues for them when it's wet, primarily.
Yeah, I think through you, Mr Mayor, it was flagged at the NCDA meeting, the one that most of the councillors attended. So there's, I think, 2 pensioners left in town that provide access to the roadsides. We can cross those, that's fine.
And if we could communicate with them that we're definitely looking at it and just ensure that what I'm hearing from one is suitable for all.
Yep.
That would be good. Questions for Paul?
Mr Mayor, those...
Sorry, my apologies. I indicated that I'd just raise with Stuart. I just said I'd pass it on, just act as a conduit. So I'll wait. I'm not going to go into what we do about it, but just he would be the most appropriate contact for whatever the concern is. Sorry, Greg.
I'm just going to comment on the concrete driveways. So we have a fee and the fees and charges to supply those to houses.
So they don't want a driveway. Because when we took the bitumen out, when we narrowed the streets, we put back in there a soft fill, and then when it rains, they sink up to their knees in that soft fill.
Right. So walking path.
A walking path. A sealed.
From the gate to the...
From their personal gate, they're not worried about their driveways.
Personal gate.
It's just from their personal, like from the gate into them and out of the yard that they would walk in and out. And they're not asking for a full lateral footpath, they just want access. They're quite happy to walk on the road, which in any other community would worry me, but that particular street in Muttaburra is quiet enough on a Friday afternoon, I'm told, that it's okay.
And these are pensioners or,
Yeah.
because we do have funding under the CHSP program for putting in parks. If they,
This particular lady,
If they're eligible for CHSP,
It is.
then they.
it's a
we may be
problem
able
for
to use
her with things like getting the wheelie bin out when it's wet. You've got to carry it because you can't drag it through the mud. I'm not sure. Don't know that it's appropriate for me to mention a name in open meeting, but I'm happy to let officers know who it is and we can work directly with her and all of the other. I think officers locally advised me yesterday there might be a maximum of 5 over the 2 streets, 5 houses left that have this as a consistent issue. So if we can just work with all of them, and I'm not sure what their individual statuses are. So. Any other questions for Paul?
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor Gleeson.
Paula, regarding the pool, in our community engagements, there was suggestion or looking into a swipe card situation at Mundarra. Has it been investigated? Do you at all, you know?
Mayor, can I just answer that? It's, we're meeting with King and Company on Friday in Brisbane, and that is on the agenda to ask about the legal situation of that.
Thank you.
So I discussed that yesterday. I will come to you, Paula. Sorry. I discussed that yesterday as well, and there's actually there is mixed sentiment around that with the community. And you were there at that stage. So whilst I think everyone can see some pluses to it, there's certainly some of our senior officers have got some concerns about how that facility would stand up to basically uncontrolled access at all times of day and night. So there was some issues about it. Paul, I may have taken your thunder there, did I? Or?
I was just going to mention, Anna and I met with Mark Layla yesterday, who's the auditor for Queensland Government, and we raised that with him as well about the pool and access. And yeah, he's got great concerns around that as well. But yeah, we'll see what King and Co have to say.
Thank you.
Okay, no more questions?
One more question, I'm sorry. If no one. The building that we discussed over at the Aramac, the old building, there was lots of discussions about it and we finished up leaving it where it was because we're going to, people were investigating into making like a halfway house or whatever out of it. Has there been any further discussions on that, or is it everything's just sort of sitting on the wayside at the moment?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, the application from the sergeant to do the driver reviver, he withdrew that. So, and there's been no other discussion about it in the community that I've heard.
Thank you.
Okay, all good. 372. Background forward.
The people that actually back onto this block of land approached me to ask if they could purchase it, and I advised them it had to go to tender first, so we put that block of land in Frank Street out for tender, and they were the only ones that put a price in for it. And I think that's a fairly fair price for Mundarra.
Pleasant to make that. Questions? Councillor Plummer, you moving that?
Yes.
Second up. Councillor Peoples. Debate against? There being none, those in favour?
Sorry, I was in favour.
Oh, I thought you'd moved it and then you were going to vote against it.
No.
I've seen some funny things, but that was going to be one up there. We're going to
I'll
big call the vote.
Just see if you're awake.
I was most definitely awake. It was you that weren't. 7-0. Request to purchase land. Aramac, Paula, would you like to lead us through this?
So same sort of deal. The people that bought the adjoining property a few months ago have requested if they could purchase a little bit of the museum reserve from us, which actually houses the old Cultural Association building. There is no Cultural Association anymore, they've sold it. But I have spoken to the old people that still are active in the Cultural Association, but not as an association. They're happy to hand that building over if the council desires.
So your recommendation is that we don't agree to the sale? That's something I don't understand.
Oh, sorry, Mr Mayor, that's my recommendation
Right.
to council.
Councillors, thoughts?
And Mr Mayor, just to clarify, and the reason for that was that parcel of land is the museum access. So, well, it is the front of the museum, and if we ever want to do any development there, like do the railway, a railway ride or put a new shed for Aunt Emma, we may need that land. So that was the reason why I made that recommendation. We would have to, it is a reserve, so that land would have to be freeholded before we could sell it, if we wish to sell it.
Thoughts, councillors?
So on this map, where it's A18415,
Corner block with the red roof.
So that's the arts and crafts building,
yep.
which is ready to be demolished, is that correct?
So they want to buy the whole block.
Correct.
The whole block or only a portion?
No, just where I've actually started to dot the line across.
Black dotted, yes.
Yeah, that's where it is.
Oh, okay.
Councillor Gleeson?
Councillor Harcourt.
Or you have to say it more than we can, because it's a
Is it
reserve.
subdivided, is it in two leases? Three, Mr Mayor, is that block in two separate leases?
No, it's one at the moment.
Is
That's what the officers are saying. If we wish to sell it, we would have to freehold it and then we could put it in whatever size blocks we like, provided they conform with our town plan.
Mr Mayor, can we, I know it's an access, but is it a legal access through a block of dirt, through a property? You know, can you offer to these people the whole block, not a portion of the block?
See what Tom's saying there, but I still think if you were going to do something, you'd only give them the section they want, because you do have access coming down through that block there now. See the road coming down? That's going to the old museum.
Is that legal access? Yeah. Is that legal access through a block?
Well, it is because it's a reserve that we own. You know, it's private property, don't we?
And there's a road reserve, Boundary Street continues down the eastern side of both parcels. So that is a legal road.
Yeah, but Councillor Gleeson's saying where the road actually is not. It's block 184015. Like most of the road is outside the road. Most of the street access that we're currently physically using doesn't fall within the Boundary Street Reserve.
No.
Actually, only a very small portion from the intersection of McWannell down does. So about exactly where that dotted line is. Councillor Hanson.
Through you, Mr Mayor, just the price of demolishing the building and freeholding the land, I would imagine be fairly expensive to what they're actually offering us for a portion of that land. Is that something we're considering? It appears that it would cost council quite a bit of money to actually sell the land for what the return we're going to get. I don't see a price they're offering here.
plus the cost of freeholding it. It's a difficult one. I mean, we want to get rid of stuff, but we've got plenty of freehold land that we still own that we haven't yet sold. I don't know, Councillor Peoples?
I can see both sides of the argument here. Where the dotted line is, I probably would be okay with that and keep the rest there for the Treenway Museum. But with what Councillor Hinton just said, I think you'd have to have a look at the demolish of the building and the subdivision to be an expense of the purchaser.
Yeah, that's the thing, it's a cost of freehold, then the cost to subdivide, and you've got to survey it for both.
Well, I think we probably need to get a price, Mr Mayor, on, you know, what the subdivision would be, and then maybe some rough idea of the demolition, and say to this young couple, would you be willing to pay that?
Yeah, I'm broadly supportive if this can be done at no cost to council. Fine.
And Mr Mayor, there's,
Council not yet agreed to that.
Sorry, Councillor Arthur.
because the requester owns the block next door.
Correct.
Yeah. And there's 2/3 of the back of that block that are undeveloped. So it's not as if the house block is short on space or land. No. As well.
Look, if the proponents here are willing to pay the costs of the development of the, probably no harm, no foul, but it's going to cost council tens of thousands of dollars to do this ourselves.
Mr Mayor, we'd have to, we just have to work out how to do it, because you have to go to tender again. But we can't just offer it to one person. Potentially there'll be no one else who is willing to purchase it, but if you did go out to tender, someone else could put in for it.
But that's the beauty of the process, that's why the legislation calls for that. So someone, if the details of the tender were the sale of the land, inclusive of the costs to demolish and subdivide, and someone else wants to agree to that terms and they got more money, well that's the real estate business, isn't it? It's just whether council wants to go to the process of putting it out to tender, or whether we just agree now to do nothing with it for the time being.
There is an exemption.
I was just conferring about the exemption relating to adjoining properties.
Yeah.
Question.
Mr Mayor, I was going to say maybe our DM could have a yarn to that young couple and say, look, this is what council is willing to do, and if you're thinking that you'd be willing to proceed down that path, we put it up to tender. We think about putting it up to tender.
We may not need to, because there's an exemption under the sale of land around adjoining or adjacent property owners.
But we still need to ask them, are they willing to demolish and subdivide it?
Yeah, that could just sort the whole thing out real quick.
Real quick, I think.
Through you, Mr Mayor, too, before they came to me and asked me about that other block too, they did consider building at the back of their block there, which we have to extend our fence out to anyway. The museum fence only actually goes to the bottom tree line there, so it's all fenced out at the moment, so there's a fence there that has to be removed and they need to fence down further into the museum section. So they also asked if they did build a shed on their back of their block there, could they have access to that back block, which I didn't really have an issue with. It wasn't going to be a permanent access or anything, just if they had to drive in there on occasion.
Well, someone can already drive down there to go to the museum, so it's only a matter of driving down to go to the museum and turning right instead of parking.
Yep.
That's right.
Don't see any problem with that either.
Well, I'm not going to provide advice to them, but I think we seek their guidance as to whether they're prepared to wear the costs. I think council is a pretty sort of united procedure would be on the base, proceeding in any way on these lines would be on the basis that it's at no cost to council, so we can always make that, you can make that offer to them.
Yeah, they were definitely happy to demolish the building, but we didn't speak about subdivision or anything.
So I think the resolution then probably can stand as it is, subsequent to further discussion, so we could just add to it. The council does not agree to the sale of the land at this stage. Officers to confer or explore further options with the residents. Comfortable with something like that? Actually,
Interesting.
we've got to take officers out, CEO, please. Can't resolve anything that does anything other than to the CEO. CEO can delegate to whoever she likes.
What would be options with interested people, residents?
Yeah, with the proponents. With the proponents.
Proponent.
Yep. Comfortable with that resolution, councillors? Do we have a mover? Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Gleeson. Discussion again? There being none, those in favour? 7-0. Oh, sorry. Okay, it's 381. Can somebody move Jenny's report, please? Councillor Prebbles, second Councillor Plum. Those in favour? Carried. Jenny, before I actually lead on your report, I just wanted to convey councils, on behalf of the council, had a conversation with a couple of people who have been meeting with you in preparation for, over the recent few weeks, for a funeral, and they wanted to convey to council, and I'm now publicly passing it on to you, their extreme thanks for the work and the professional and the effort you go to make that, you know, very difficult task as good as you can. So on behalf of the people who conveyed it, but also on behalf of all of us, thank you, you and your staff, and to all of our staff who undergage funeral planning, but in this case I'm mentioning you, but thank you very much. It's a thankless task, and it's one that's obviously very difficult for all involved, not only the family, but for the staff members as well. So thank you for undertaking that on all of our behalf. And really, it's very well, it's consistently raised with me when I run into those people, how professional and well done it is. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's nice feedback.
So I'll ask you to lead into your report if you have anything to highlight for us.
Well, I would like to say that it was great to see the Australia Day celebrations in Barcaldine so well received by people and very well attended. It was a really good afternoon, and the swimming club did a great job, and that was the biggest number of attendees we've seen at something like that for quite some time here in Barcaldine. So
The biggest in the region.
yeah, it's nice. It was a nice change. The other one, probably there, the land tenders that went to the last council meeting. You will see that I have received an email today saying that for the 2 industrial blocks, because they were a lot simpler, their contract's gone to the purchasers solicitors for approval to make sure that everything's correct in there. So that one's well underway. The other 2, one that we sort of declined but said we'd give them first offer, they accepted, just waiting for them to get back to me with their details. And the Mahogany Court one, just waiting to tidy up one more little thing, and hopefully that one's all done and dusted and the contract's just about ready. So on that one there, they're actually purchasing the 2 blocks up front with the option to hold the other 4.
Okay. Just on the industrial then, through either yourself or the CEO, the local real estate agents are very keen to help facilitate the sale of those remaining blocks, as in now that we've got a price they can quote to people for them at. Are we able to
Mr. Mayor,
discuss?
seeing I had described conflicts of interest
want to make a decision, council. I'm probably just asking officers if they can just meet with their real estate agents. We have two local real estate agents, and they're fielding interest in those blocks. So if we can meet with them to know out how or whatever. Okay. Sorry, anything else?
And since that meeting, the deputy CNO and I were at the bakery one morning, and we were approached by another prospective purchaser, said he didn't have enough of the details to actually put in a tender price, so he's aware of what the price has been set by council, so he may come back, he may not, so he was also interested in 2 blocks if it comes to fruition. So apart from that, we did talk this morning, the Globe tenders are out, they close next Friday, they're with the architects. Apart from that, I think we've covered most of the other stuff in some of the conversations this morning.
Questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Gleeson.
We did discuss this morning, and in a way, that with the upgrading of the PA system, the Buckle and Showgrounds PA system work scheduled for February 2020. That money there that's allocated, that's got, that's this year's budget.
Sorry, 2020. My apologies, Mr. Mayor, that's 2021.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
That money that's money already allocated, and we've just had a discussion a few hours ago for more funding for the same project. Is it same project, similar project?
Main project, just a different funding source, is it, or?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this was what was originally put in the budget at the beginning of this, for this financial year, so that was an original funding source. Yeah.
So that's now,
Which would be incorporated into
or replaced by the LRCIP.
because this also had an LRCIP against it in its original budget. Yeah. So
that's another one of those projects that we talked about this morning.
this morning, yeah.
Okay. So what we may have been able to do is effectively this will be fully funded by LRCIP and council's contribution may now be saved. Is that right? We may even save some LRCIP funding if any user groups actually come forward and contribute to it as well.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I was going to organise writing to a letter to all those to see if they were willing to contribute.
That'll be very good. Anything further? Questions? Councillor Gleeson?
No, thank you. Thank you.
Eccles?
No, thank you.
Hanson? Plum? Rogers? Great.
All right. Finished or not? Or can I ask one more? No.
You get just one bit of latitude, Councillor. Yes, you may.
One small bit of latitude. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the cricket practice nets and the rugby league building extensions, they are both on track to be finished this year, this financial year.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I met with representatives of the Cricket Association last Thursday, so I'm not very precise on that, because I also met with the Dolphin Racing Queensland the same day. They have now received funding to actually put in double cricket practice nets, and yes, they are working on getting that done, so yes, that is going to happen. No cost to council for that at all, yeah. So.
Can I ask which position in the oval showgrounds area is that going to take place?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is in the area near the racecourse area there behind the playground, and it's going to run north-south. It's close to an electricity pole. It was an area that we discussed with them previously. It's going to run north-south near the electricity pole in case they need to have lights. There is a light on that pole near the playground area.
So, sorry, can you say that again, Jenny? So it's
Eastern side
near the
of
On
playground.
the east,
Of the playground.
yeah, on the east, yeah.
Can I please further, can I ask another question, if you don't mind?
Yes.
The main cricket pitch is in the oval, and there is lots of room in the oval. Why
Concrete.
would the, oh gee, it's a difficult one, I'm sorry, but why is there another thing happening in the grounds over there without community, in everybody knowing something about it, that is taking up more camping space for campers, and for Westec, for the show, for the camp drafts, taking up another huge amount of area, whereas I would have thought that there was other areas within the oval that could be used closer to their sheds and where they store all the gear.
So just against the racetrack, is it where it is? Just trying to look here myself.
Excuse me, yes, it's 2 metres off.
So there, somewhere. Is that the playground? No,
The
there's the playground.
playground, so yeah, see that tree there?
Yep.
So going to run in there.
That way.
Yeah.
So here is the area that's being referred to.
Tristan's just getting it up.
Oh, that's great.
Well, just through you, Mr. Mayor, with the, and you, I've got to be careful what I say, but through you, Mr. Mayor, the
very
camping,
closely to your conflicts of interest potentially here, councillor, yes.
the camping area, and not only for the camp draft area, but for the show and the exhibitors for Westec, we had a huge amount of room taken off us when the racecourse fence got put there, and now we're going to have another considerable amount of room taken off all those different organisations for this. I'd just like to bring that to everybody's attention. Thank you.
I'm just checking, these are concrete practice wickets, aren't they, not turf?
Yes, they are concrete.
Does that take away some of the vision of the straight from your hill too?
To Mr. Mayor, they're net. They're not, yeah, they're mesh, they're not.
That existing fence is staying.
Other nets.
Yeah, no, they're 2 metres off the fence.
There's you've got this fence here.
There's a fence still.
Okay, Oh, yeah, it's coming out there, yeah,
It's
right.
coming out.
No, you're gonna run
So
the other
it's
way.
going to be, it's going to run this way,
So
and
that's
2
already
metres
been
off
taken.
the outside fence, so there's double fence.
That outside fence is there.
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to go here.
Because see that trees, so it comes on in the inside those trees.
So it won't take away room to the straight.
No, it's
Well, they won't even be in the road.
no.
Because, see, this is the outside, that's the roof fence there. And this here is the area that is, the hill's view of the straight will be okay, but Councillor Hanson, you asked a question, sorry?
Are the nets removable? Because if they are removable in that area, quite possibly still be used for campers and exhibitors and that type of stuff.
Yeah, so are they a permanent mesh installation or like the framework that keeps the...
To you, Mr. Mayor, I'd have to clarify that with the Cricket Association. And to you, Mr. Mayor, that was an area that they had discussed in original, they've been in discussions with that area for a while. It was just close to electricity, it was, yeah. Oh.
Mayor,
The other option.
Councillor Peoples, sorry, Peoples and then one.
if we've taken off where that fence line runs down there now, and we've taken that area away from the camp draft, for camping and what have you. And I don't really know how much area is there, but why can't we put a gate in that fence so as they can camp back in there when they're having a camp after there's no raceway?
You don't want fencing right against the racetrack, do you?
Well,
Because now there's not that much, like it's,
the training track's away, it's another track over anyway.
what I mean is, it's very limited area, like you only, isn't it, Tom? It's not a very big, like, it's a big area when it's in total, but it's narrow.
It's narrow, yeah.
So you'd be increasing the likelihood of damage to one of the two fences by compressing stuff into that space.
Right.
Mr Mayor, I thought one of their options was to go over on the western side fence of the stalls there. I thought that was an area
Which stalls?
right beside, on the junction there where the road goes out on towards the sale yards. And then up that Pine Road, is it Pine Street Road? I thought it was on that fence there was
Yeah.
an option, yeah, that was one of their options, to go over there, out of the way.
To you, Mr Mayor, that was their original choice, but it's dark. If they were going to have night, it's the access to power, it was the access to services, and yeah, the other option was probably more suitable option for usage times, yeah.
Councillors, we can't sit here all day, debate this, but councillor.
Just one more little question from those who don't mind. The storage buildings that adjoin the oval, do the cricket club there, right there, does the cricket club keep their materials in one of those areas?
To you, Mr Mayor, yes, the Cricket Association do have access to one place.
So the long one that immediately adjoins the oval, is that it? Probably a precious little room there anywhere that, just thinking off the top of my head, councillor Gleeson, where you could put it.
Big button
I'm just thinking about where you're going to put it there.
in there. I'm sorry, but yeah, no, I'm just wondering. There are lots of things because like at some stage we actually have gymkhanas. Pony Club actually have gymkhanas between the edge of the football field and that fence, so that they're not riding on the football field. But there's still enough room there to put up enough facilities to gallop around there on horses without going on the football field, between the football field and the fence. And there's the storage. There's just all the gear stored in the shed right there. Thank you. I've asked enough questions. Can I ask one more question? Can we just pick that one? Totally.
Yes, councillor, please.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I just want to one more. Parking on the footpath notices. There's been 6 issued notices of people parking on the footpath. Can you enlighten me on that, please? You know what?
Through you, Mr Mayor, that is like, so people in front of their private residences, you shouldn't be, it is illegal to obstruct a footpath because that is a walkway, so they need to move the cars out to curb, so that's what the notices have been issued for, basically to people to make those clear accesses, yeah.
Thank you. I was told that it was maybe some of the garages or whatever that were getting into trouble, so thank you.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, to extend that, we are installing curb and channel as drive over. So that encourages or signifies that you can drive over the parking footpath. I understand that the circumstances might be that they're parking across the footpath, not down the footpath and blocking, but we send one sort of message and then we slap the wrist with another. And especially if there's not a concrete footpath there, then I'm all for making sure that bikeways and concrete footpaths are clear. But I think we're confusing some of the residents, because to me, if you install a drive over curb, that means you're encouraging us to park on footpath. And we're narrowing the bitumen so we can't park roadside of the gutter on both sides and then have 2 cars be able to park. So we're encouraging us to at least park one set of wheels up on the footpath.
To highlight that point, Jenny and are we familiar with Brett? Are these instances of where it is just, as Councillor Arthur said, just parking, or are these genuinely blocks of footpaths where footpaths are being obstructed, like genuine concrete walkways?
To Mr Mayor, yes, genuine concrete footpaths, and this is an open meeting, so, and it is to do with businesses that are parking on bike paths that head towards the school.
Yeah, no,
So
that's fine.
they're
Okay.
genuine,
Just-
so
That's
I
legitimate.
guess when you introduced it for those, when people see that they're getting them for business houses, and then you of course get the reports of then, well, others park on footpaths as well, so it was, I guess, looked at across the board.
That's fine, thank you, Mr Mayor.
That does follow that. I don't. It's a very delicate point that's been raised by Councillor Gleeson, not this point before it. I won't gloss past it. Very mindful of the fact the officers have got roles to do. But I clearly detect that Councillor Gleeson, I've watched right through what your comments were there, and I don't believe you breached COIs, but you were heavily involved in a number of groups that use that facility. And can I perhaps ask, and I'm not asking this with the respect that any officer's done anything other than what's in the best interest of the facility, clearly consulted with a number of groups, but could we perhaps just reaffirm that the siting of that is in its only or best advantageous spot? And Councillor Gleeson, I appreciate your comments about it. We do need, there are probably more individual user groups use the Buckhall and showgrounds than there are any of our other facilities. So it is a very delicate balancing act that the district manager has in terms of managing her facility. Yes, there will possibly be decisions that have to be made about the siting of infrastructure that won't be advantageous to all. It's going to have to lead where it's the most advantageous to the majority. But if there is options that may have not been explored, then I think we can try to just ensure that before deciding on it. Just, if for no other reason, to ensure that there's acceptance, cohesiveness amongst our user groups. If we can, please. Are we finished with the rollover curb / car parking issue?
You know, I thank Jenny very much for all the information and all the homework. Gets back to again the more community consultation. Thank you.
391. Can I have somebody move Angela, would you like to join? I thought you were 92, weren't you? Or 91? Sorry, you're off the list, sorry. Do you want somebody to move Angela's report? Councillor Hanson, second Councillor Clark. Those in favour? Carried 6-0. Angela, would you like to lead us through anything?
Alright, thank you. Pretty clear.
Councillors, questions?
I'm going to give you a copy of the report.
No? Okay, carries.
You all right?
Sorry, mate.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know you.
I didn't think.
Mr Mayor, sorry, Councillor Hanson, you've got a question. Sorry, Greg.
Just through you, Mr Mayor, if we could have an update on where the Tree of Knowledge Festival's lying at the moment.
For you, Mr. Mayor, we are progressing with all the community groups, talking with them, confirming the details. At the moment, we're waiting for confirmation from the Australian Workers Heritage Centre on a few details to confirm the details of Friday night. So I'm meeting with them tomorrow to make sure that we know out all the details. But they're opening on Saturday night.
And the March potentially in reverse this year?
Yeah, potentially in reverse. The May Day committee are in discussions with the Heritage Centre as well as their group to decide which way they will go. The option is, instead of going to the showgrounds, that they might finish the parade at the Heritage Centre.
Commencing it at the showgrounds and finishing it.
They hadn't decided where they would start it if they went to the Heritage Centre. But we would still need some kind of road closure that morning.
Definitely.
Yeah, just along the programs, really, like what's on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday.
Yep, I can.
I know races Saturday, the drag cars lead on Sunday, March is normally a Monday. Just that one, you know, what the programs looking like.
So Friday night, we're opening the Buckleton Recreation Park. So invitations have been sent out to the Minister, the Premier for that as well. We will have entertainment. We're just working with the Heritage Centre to see where they want to go with the entertainment. We might swap depending on what they want to go with. We've got fireworks arranged along with a laser show, and just getting quotes for some kids' activities as well. Saturday morning, the Sacred Heart have not confirmed whether or not they're having markets, but I have been in contact with them to ask them to confirm those details. The horse racing and the goat racing will be happening at the race course on Saturday afternoon, and then the Heritage Centre will be opening their new building on Saturday evening. There'll be live entertainment as well as the Central West Aboriginal Corporation and Red Ridge will have a performance with dancers. It's a showcase that they're presenting at that. Sunday we have the Barkey Rev Fest, which will be at the airport, the Ecumenical Service, which will be at the Broadham Park, and the miniature trains will also be operating on Sunday morning. Saturday afternoon will be the football with live entertainment over there on Sunday evening.
Sunday afternoon will be football.
On Sunday afternoon, yes.
Which is Alpha versus Barcaldine. It's a local derby. So.
Here's the red flag.
Please, come
If
on.
they do that to me, I'll never ever blow a whistle ever again. I haven't been asked, and I sincerely hope that they can find a local. Here.
And then Monday morning would be the May Day parade. Celebrations either at the showgrounds or at the Heritage Centre.
Councillor Bevan.
Mr Mayor, we're just looking at the invites we're sending out to the Premier and Stephen Miles and Sterling Hinchcliffe. Could we also send one to Grace, because this race meeting we've got is the probably first TAB meeting that we're having at Barcaldine on May Day. So I think it'd be only appropriate that we see if the Racing Minister wanted to come too. Please.
Councillor Hanson, did that give you a bit of an overview?
That's fine, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Australian Light Horse Association expressed an interest to be involved and going to be a part of this some little demonstrations. We've got to work with various, they've expressed that interest, haven't they? Jenny, who's been part of that? Is it you? No?
Mr Mayor, we're working with the May Day Committee, Lighthouse and myself to make sure that that's all scheduled and planned for the weekend.
Would it be possible to work with the racers? Maybe they might do something there as well.
Yeah, so an email will be sent to each of the groups that are involved to see if there's some kind of involvement for Lighthouse.
Beautiful.
So what sort of thing are they planning to do, Angela? Any idea?
No, sorry.
I was actually part of the initial reach out, and I think we're planning on bringing their troops, so their horses and their the people that make it up and do just be at various events.
bit like the Shiva thing with the uniforms and all
Yeah,
that?
they'll be fully uniform, full kit, regalia, colours, the trumpets, the whole deal.
Sounds good.
Questions? Councillor Lee.
Through Mr. Mayor, just with the rec park, there was sort of talk of having a raft race of some kind. Is that still on the books or on the agenda or thought possibility?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we haven't progressed that any further at this stage.
It'd be something you probably have to advertise fairly early to give people time to get prepared for it if you were thinking along that lines.
We have discussed it, Mr. Mayor, but we just wanted to make sure we had water before we progressed it too far. But I think there's enough water in there now.
Do you think we'd be close to half capacity by the start of the month? A few things go our way?
Mr. Mayor, I was just trying to work that out before actually you explained it. We've got a meter in it now, put in over summer. We turned on sort of late December, so we're 6 weeks in. Once it cools off a bit, we'll get a bit more in, so I'll have a couple of metres in there by now. We'll be able to duck dive anyway, Mr. Mayor.
Well, Mr. Mayor, for some of us that aren't particularly good swimmers, we probably only want 1.5 meters in there. If we're going to have a rubber duck or a raft race.
Mayor, I'm thinking, sorry, councillor, I'm thinking 1.5 metres could be half a metre to a metre too much.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, can I just ask Councillor Hanson, are you thinking like a fun raft, right? Like build your own or a actual?
Like the Alice River Regatta used to be years ago with Apex, where you just built a raft that had to be man-powered, not machine. It was, I know what we used to do back then was a bit, we used to have some violent stuff we used to throw around. You're probably going to disallow that type of thing, but yeah, a little bit of fun, a little bit of sport.
So build your
Man-made
own
raft, man-made.
Man-made.
And man-propelled.
It could be the novelty fun thing to launch it with. I mean, it's probably going to be a touch and go to think we'd have enough water for actual power boats to be there to get and actually skiing. So maybe a bit of a fun thing that all members, because not everybody in the community can water ski, but they can all glue to 44-gallon drums together or something, I don't know.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there might be the opportunity on Saturday morning if the markets don't go ahead. We could do it then.
Just thinking in terms of otherwise we'll only be out there for a ribbon cutting, won't we?
No, there's going to be live entertainment.
Right.
That's on Friday.
Yes.
Right. Well, if we can look at anyway, I think, some sort of novelty raft race might be the community. Bring the community into it.
Might go for a few more people out for the open day as well.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, the users group meetings this afternoon.
Yeah.
Opportune time to
Right.
see if we can gain some of their support and interest.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to say while Angela was looking for her report that so the LED signs have been ordered for the 5 communities. So there's one for each community that were put in a prominent location and each community can advertise their events, put messages out.
Mayor, with regards to the Harry Redford reunion, this day won't be happening at our race meeting, but may possibly happen at a rodeo later in the year. So we've got a meeting coming up, the rodeo committee, to decide whether that's a possibility, and we'll get back to Angela when we see what their decision is at their meeting.
Is there a decision on, I'm just sorry, my printed agenda is not in order here. Is there a decision required on the NAIDOC week report? Or is that just a report from 2020? I thought?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's just a report.
Okay. there's no, so that's what happened in 2020. Is there a request for community school involvement in 21?
Mr. Mayor, yes, we have given a donation of $450.
Right, okay, done. So that's just, that was all it is, just for noting. Right, thank you. Radis, 392, Councillor Rogers can rejoin us, please. There's a recommendation here that we accept the application from the Artesian Originals for an amount of $13,407 for the Shelley Product Development Workshops. Anything against this, Angela? Have you got anything to add to that recommendation?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Someone prepared to move?
That's, Mr. Mayor, can I just ask a question? That seems a pretty big allocation. They're normally not that big, Melinda, are they?
Just depends on how much the project comes to, Gary.
Okay.
Councillors, yeah. So we've still got allocation left within the budget.
Yeah. We have close, Mr. Mayor, we have close to 30,000 left over after this application.
30,000 to spend in 4 months.
Very good.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, the write-off applications end in August. Sorry, the funding is from September to August.
Right. Oh, okay, sorry, so still 8 months left to run. Okay, somebody prepared to move the recommendation? Hanson, second it. Plum, anyone against? Put it to the vote. 7-0. And, yeah. Australia Day recipients, well done on your coordination. Angela, I mentioned this morning, your ability to host all of our ambassadors was fantastic. Organised the events in 3 communities this year, sorry. But you still provided lots of support material for Alpha, even though we didn't actually have the formal presentation ceremony. So thank you for that. And to the district managers who coordinated that with Angela, well done. But I guess in a challenging year for community involvement, when we're all told to stay away from each other, it was always going to be somewhat difficult to expect significant numbers of award recipients, but from top to bottom, Citizen of the Year through to cultural awards, volunteers, there would be little, if any, debate in any of our communities. The resumes of the people submitted meant that they were more than worthy in any year of the awards that they received. So I would like to move that Council acknowledges our recipients as follows. Presented there, as we all know them to be. I think it's very reflective of the strong community element that exists within our council area, and that we've got people like this that make up community groups, sporting organisations, and just generally all round want to help people, is the reason why so many of us choose to live here. So well done to those people and to the others who will follow in their footsteps. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gleeson. Comments? Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. Opera Queensland. Okay, so this is a pretty detailed report. Angela, anything to add?
No, I think it's a great opportunity for us, Mr. Mayor, to be part of a national campaign. So it will go out nationally. And the launch will be at Beef Week, which will also tie into our Drive Inland Rockhampton group, which I think will tie in well with our tourism strategy.
$6,000 in the budget, or is this additional to budget?
Mr. Mayor, it's in the budget.
Okay. Questions? I'll move up. Plum, seconded Rogers. Speaker against? Those in favour? Carried. 7-0. that's one that we'll talk about, Angela.
Sorry.
Sorry, we'll talk about that in our post-meeting video,
Yes.
please. That's it. Meeting closed, 2:24.